Good evening.
Everywhere I go on this island, it seems to me I find degeneracy.
Watch a few movies, take a few notes. See, it's a lot scarier when there's no motive, Sid.
We have a bargain.
Watch a few movies, take a few notes.
Do you feel the pain? Oh, it's the pain I can assure you will be exquisite.
Watch a few movies, take a few notes.
His entire work consists of violence, all the time. Obsessed with the issue of violence, mayhem, gouging out of eyes, autopsies on the stage.
Come. It is time to keep your appointment.
Fully grown adult.
Would you lighten up on her? She's all right.
Okay.
Town, I should call Betty. Jimbo, calling Betty is definitely a dead fuck thing to do.
Shouldn't be allowed to vote. We live in the ashes of civilization. The state of things. Yeah.
Good evening, chat.
I was not expecting that.
Quick reaction. What's the problem?
Oh, mate, love me some Friday the 13th Part 4. Mwah, mwah, mwah.
I saw that priceless reaction and I thought I've got to apply it to something.
Oh well, I think you've picked the right thing.
Oh, glad to hear it. Glad to hear it.
Also,
Well, hello, chat. I hope every single one of you can name which Friday the 13th that's from. I'll be watching the chat. I want to see the answers roll in. But that was a little favour to TCG there. Well, we are here for Double Feature Horror Show, episode 123. And we are covering a subscriber request. Yeah, happy to do that. And it's sort of end of the month. I kind of like to do something a little out there. I like to reward people who've gone the extra mile for the channel and supported me either here on YouTube or on Subscribestar. Links in the description. What a smooth shill. And this is us doing that. We covered a whole bunch of TV horror anthologies. Anthologies even. Let's start pronouncing things correctly. And now at the end of the month, before we go into the heavy October season, we're doing a little request. We do a little requesting. And we're covering Ravenous from 1999. Oh, hang on. Have people got it? Okay, I've got one guess in. I'm going to see how everyone does before I call it.
see who was paying attention.
Oh, exactly. Everyone pays attention. Look, Mergu even came off a stream about our friend Uncle Ted to come here. Like, you wouldn't do that if you weren't going to pay attention, would you?
Exactly.
Anyway, it's you and I covering Ravenous tonight. Not just me, but my good friend TCG.
Hello.
I've forgotten what I was going to do as the intro there.
Well, I think that intro that you did before was just beautiful. Well done.
Oh, there you go. That's your intro then. That's the intro.
There we go. We'll settle for that.
Yay. All right. You know what, wifey, you got it. I feel like I'm being biased here, but yes, you did get it correct. You did get it correct, wifey. That was number 4. That is number 4 indeed. All right. Oh, so I have to ask, TCG, before we really get into it, before we do a little pre-show shill, had you ever heard of this movie before?
Never heard of it. Never heard of it before. No.
I'm not surprised. I mean, 1999, bit of a busy year, cinematically. Quite a few things going on there. The Matrix.
Yep.
Cruel Intentions.
Oh, what a film.
Surely one of Ryan Philippe's best roles.
I was thinking more Sarah Michelle Gellar, but okay.
There was a lot to like in that film.
Hang on, is Wholesome Chicken Wrangler talking about the second one? We actually watched that last Friday. When when we saw the chap in the wheelchair get introduced, me and my wife were like, yes, because it is our favourite death. Sorry, but
he's got a very memorable role.
Oh my god, quite literally.
Yeah. Oh, you love to see it. Yeah. I think it's a second one where he gets chucked down the stairs.
That's the one. Yeah.
Blast it. I love that.
Oh, it's just...
Welcome to the film.
Oh, yeah.
Putting the die in diversity and inclusion, right?
Way. That was an equal opportunity death, that was.
It truly was. And you know that Friday the 14th did really live up to that.
Yeah.
Oh, bless. John's got it right, actually. We do have a Friday the 13th this October.
Ooh.
That's handy. That's super handy. Anyway, I'll just say, hi, so many regulars. I see, Essie, hello. Thank you. Thanks to your request, we are watching this film tonight. We are covering it. I hope we do it justice for you. Hello, Marina. Hello, Maverick. John. Joe, Dr. Prepper. I see you in there. Hello, T. Hello, the Alabastard. Hello, Baldwin. Oh, I hope I'm not leaving anyone out. If I've missed you out, don't be offended. I'm gonna go straight into this if I can. But before we go straight into this, we have to do some shilling because TCG, you've been done dirty.
I have. Proper dirty. Proper dirty. New video launched on Monday. If you haven't seen it, go and check it out. It is the story of Nicole Vanden Herk and how a Facebook confession led to the solving of the crime, basically. I don't think YouTube really liked that one. It didn't really. It's not really taken off so far, but who knows? It's still early days. But if you haven't checked it out, please do go and check it out. It's less than 20 minutes of your time, and I promise you, it has a shocking twist. Maybe I should have put that in the title. Maybe I should.
Yeah, you should. You should.
Maybe I should have done. Maybe that's what it is. But otherwise, I'm still streaming the Ace Attorney gameplay stuff. I think we're about to end the second game. Last stream will take place on Saturday for that one. And tomorrow we are over on my main channel. We are bringing back the Friday night community quiz, and I'm delighted that Murgu and Horrorshow will be there, taking part again alongside Denziel, and Shrouded Hand will be making a return.
Excellent. We love Mr. Hand.
That
name's been ruined, hasn't it?
He does a lot of streaming on Twitch himself. Actually, he does all sorts of like horror games and just random games. There, he does that for a couple of hours a day. Go and check him out if you haven't already as well on the old Twitch.
Yeah, always worth it. Good friend of the channel.
Very good friend.
Hand. Yeah, lovely. So yeah, hopefully people are going to go over to your video after this, or put it on the watch later list and give it a watch, because if the algo does you dirty, we've got to try and make amends. We've got to make amends for it. As for me, there will be stuff coming out, but it's not going to come out for a while, because I told people behind the scenes this. I did a bit of a silly. I started recording my stuff for Scream 6. I thought we'd go more in depth. There's quite a lot to say about it. And I recorded nearly 4 hours of footage. So there's quite a bit of editing to do. And it turns out I can't really moderate once I get going. I did bullet points. I thought that would make it quicker. It did not make it quicker. So I'm definitely going to get the Murgu achievement. Sorry, the Murgu, the Mauler achievement on this one. We will certainly be talking about the film longer than the length of the film, but Not to the 5 hours, but I think we're going to be over the 2 hour mark on this one. So that'll be a bit of a Halloween special, I think, a bit of a October special for you all. All right, all right. Well, that's a bit of shilling out the way. There's a bunch of you here, so I'm not going to wait around too much longer. We'll discuss Ravenous. So TCG, you'd never heard of this before. I don't think this is particularly well known.
Yeah, never heard of it. Never heard of it. But I was quite impressed with the cast, though. I mean, was it Guy Pearce, Robert Carlyle. You've got the blonde-haired, blue-eyed dude that plays, I think his name's Dave Phillips or something like that, of Desperate Housewives. So it was quite surprised to see him playing some sort of macho military man.
I'd looked at other stuff he'd done. I was like, it's amazing what people turn up in. Where you think, that's where I know you from. You've got randomly John Spencer from The West Wing, Leo McGarry to fans of that, David Arquette, obviously a really young David Arquette.
Of course, literally playing Doofy before Scary Movie did Doofy.
Oh yeah, he really is, isn't he? That was a weird one. I mean, he doesn't do much in this one, but
no,
it's interesting to see him. I just really got it in my head that it was a Canadian production and that's why he turned up. But no, they were filming in Eastern Europe. They were doing it before it was cool, coming over and do your filming for cheap in Prague.
Yeah, I wondered because they said because obviously in the film he gets shipped off to California, doesn't he? And I'm like, obviously when he gets there, it's all like snowy and stuff. And I just thought to myself, like, I don't recall. I mean, I don't know. I mean, unless this is just evidence for climate change, but I don't remember. I don't remember sort of the portrayal of California being so cold.
Yeah, well, I think it's on the way there. I would guess they're a waypoint for people heading on over there. Yeah, it's a niche one. I saw this way back in the day purely because my local Blockbuster had it. And I kind of went through everything they had in their horror aisle, you might imagine. I thought I was going to get something more like, let's say, Ruggero Deodato's cannibal film. That the title, I probably won't say this early in a stream, but you guys know the one. I watch all that sort of stuff, but I was expecting I would get another cannibal film like that.
Yeah,
I was thrown off at the time, but I enjoyed it a bit more on the rewatch. And delving into this, I think some of the oddness in it can be explained. Like it has a very well. How would you describe the vibe of this film, TCG?
The vibe. It's difficult. It's difficult because all while I was watching this, I couldn't get out of my head how one-dimensional the characters are in this. I mean, literally every character has one character trait, and that is their sole character trait. Like David Arquette's character is just a dumb lad. You've got the stereotypical Native American characters. You've got the pisshead drunk doctor. You've got, I'm trying to think what else. You've got the religious religious dude. They all seem to sort of stick to their one character trait. Yeah. But I mean, in terms of the film itself, when it comes to how the main character was it? Oh my god, what was his name? Boyd, and Ives. Obviously Robert Carlyle's character. They feel very much like yin and yang when it comes to how they see the cannibalism topic. You know, on the one hand, you've got Robert Carlyle, who's fully embraced it, and he does whatever he can to satiate that hunger, whereas you have Boyd's character who does everything that he can to reject that idea and is very reluctant to engage with that kind of lifestyle, if you will. You were telling me behind the scenes that this sort of had some sort of subversive messaging. I personally didn't see it, but I'm sure that but you said it apparently is quite evident from the creators and the producers of this, that there was meant to be some sort of like subversive messaging. But then as soon as they said Wendigo, my mind instantly went to supernatural. So I get easily distracted. Like I noticed, because I rented this off of Amazon Prime, and I was just infuriated when on the subtitles they were spelling Wendigo wrong. I was just like, man, what are you doing?
How did they spell it?
Wendigo, Ween.
Ween?
Digo. Yeah, Wendigo.
Oh,
Wendigo. Because they were saying Wendigo, but obviously it's just Wendigo, and that irked me more than some sort of like colonial message that the director or whoever was trying to put out. It's like that's nice, but you need to speak to the people that have done the subtitles for this, because that's not on.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, anti-white, anti-Western subversion and destruction of our heritage is one thing, but can you get the spelling right, please?
I know.
We have standards, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, we'll get into that. We'll get into that. But as we're sort of saying backstage, it's like that's an element in it, but it's not the whole film. We'll cover it because it's important to cover, but there's more than just that stuff going on. And I'm really pleased that you said the yin and yang thing, because I think that is in there and that is very nicely done. I mean, that's sort of hinted at a little bit here in this opening screen I've got for us. This quotation from Nietzsche. He that fights with monsters should look to it that he himself does not become a monster. You might have heard that rendered typically as beware when you look into the abyss, for the abyss looks into you, especially if you played Silent Hill 2, where that turns up. And which is to say there is an interaction, there is an exchange, that yin and yang thing is there. If you're looking at the monster, there's a bit of the monster in you. That is yin and yang in itself, right?
Exactly, yeah.
And since I heard it initially, I heard that phrase as the version where it's looking into the abyss, looking into the void. Is it too early for me to do a really big reach?
No, it's never too early.
Oh, lovely. All right. I'm warmed up. Here we go. Right. There's quite a few occasions where people are shouting out the protagonist's name, right?
Yes.
They're shouting out Boyd, Boyd. And it sounds a bit like void, abyss. Oh.
Yeah, you're reaching.
I thought I'd give it a go.
I just thought it was quite cool. I just thought it was quite cool because obviously at the beginning of the film, you're getting that whole, bit where he's being awarded for bravery. Obviously, it wasn't the case. You very quickly find out, and then when they're doing the flashbacks, obviously you can hear everyone going like Boyd, 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 and then when S hits the fan, when Robert Carlyle's true character comes out. By the way, hella predictable. The Dave Williams character,
right?
Yeah,
Private
he's going
Right.
Boyd, Boyd, Boyd repeatedly, and you notice he never responds to it.
No.
And also that scene was really dumb as well, because you had the Bible thumper. He has a gun. He's watching Hoyt getting like stabbed up, and he's just standing there doing nothing. I mean, we know the gun doesn't work anyway later on through Boyd, but he's just standing there watching it. And then when Robert Carlyle's character pulls out a gun, a Colt, and then no, it's not a Colt, but whatever. He when that misfires, like if I was him, shoot him. And then he's just like, run. And then the guy just drops the gun and runs. So what are you doing?
I wondered how you would feel about that scene. I thought that might drive you absolutely loopy.
I hated it. It was so weird. But I did laugh, though. I did laugh when the old old geezer like gets the old little tomahawk axe and like lobs it, and then he just uses that other guy as a human shield. That was quite funny. It's just,
it's one of those. I found it infuriating the first time because we've seen this scene quite a lot. The whole, how is our guy going to close the distance? And it's often through a bit of an editing trick. But this is one where there are 3 people guarding him, and he just starts being an absolute weirdo. He starts throwing out those Ministry of Sound moves.
Yes!
He's channeling that Glaswegian crackhead inside of himself.
Absolutely.
And Tuffler's just like, oh!
Oh no, he's being Scottish. What do we do?
That's pretty much it. Jeffrey Jones is there just saying, nah, he's Scottish. He's got the old DTs going on there. Don't worry about him, boys. And it was infuriating because of how easily he could have been taken down. But I think the fact that they immediately start playing kind of comedy banjo music when he chases Tuffler is giving you the clue that they were having a bit of fun with it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, you could tell that this wasn't entirely serious because some of the things were just absolutely goofy, and as Mergut just points out as well, there's a really like juxtaposed soundtrack when this chase happens on. It's almost very sort of like Benny Hill-esque kind of vibes.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I know sort of a couple of people mentioned about Boyd's cowardice. So I want to clarify the bit where obviously this is happening and then he starts shouting at Boyd. I thought that was quite cool how it just sort of very much mirrored and was quite consistent to sort of how Boyd would react in a stressful situation like this, because obviously it's all going Pete Tong, just like it was on the battlefield that time, and it just there was a lot of mirroring, which I thought was cool, and it was one of those like if you can sort of like blink and miss it, in terms of that comparison. But yeah, no, definitely Mergu, deep black comedy, absolutely. Like it wasn't entirely serious, and I get it. Just from a logical point of view, it was kind of like, it would have been cool if he shot him and then you find out at that moment it doesn't work, because obviously Boyd at that point I don't think had come out of the cave yet, so he wouldn't have known either.
I would have been up for that, I think, because that way they could have done the logical thing of he's freaking out and Turfler puts him down. And then for him to just get up again could have been a good scare. I mean, my instinct is say, make it scary. And this film doesn't want to just do that. It's really avoiding typical scares.
Yeah,
as we'll cover.
You've said this before, and I totally agree. When it comes to things like comedy horrors, it's very difficult to balance the two out. And what you often find, and again, I'm just sort of echoing what you've said before, is that they do tend to lean more on the comedy than they do the horror. If he'd blasted him, he went out, he got taken down, and then gets up and then does something like run and then drops the gun. Yeah, I could get behind that. Yeah,
that sort of when he's a superior predator, I like that. Yeah. I'd like to see that. And emphasis on that, but they wanted to save that. I think they wanted to save the idea that he would be impervious to bullets later, because it's only under 5 minutes later when Reich and Boyd have actually tracked him down, shoot him, and then in a quite nice black comedy moment, Boyd is sort of frustrated and screams, "Jesus Christ!" And then that's when he rises from the dead.
Yeah.
The immediate next thing that happens after saying "Jesus Christ" is he rises from the dead. And I think we should emphasize he is meant to look like Jesus quite a lot. This is one of the things that the film does, but we are sort of we're rushing ahead a bit. I'll get a quick note out the way. I want to ask Essie, if you don't mind. I'd love to know how you first saw this and why. What made you want to go for this one? Just seeing as it was your request, I'd just be really interested to see it. So feel free, drop that in the chat. I'm always interested in why people make the requests they make. So we're just in trying to capture the tone. You've probably got an idea of this already from this discussion, but I thought this starting screen gives it away quite a lot. Now this is, where are we? There we go. This is juxtaposing. This is quite dichotomous. This is a clash. This is the profound Nietzsche quote that you sit with for a few seconds and then you hit with a very modern quote. And that's a kind of jarring thing that you get hit with quite early. But then I was going to say that almost disappears from the movie after a while. Like, did you feel like the first, say, 10 minutes had a really different energy to this, to the rest of it? Like the slightly modern feel that I can only say just sort of that kind of early 2000s vibe, that slight Gen X vibe.
I don't know about that. I would say in terms of the tone, those first sort of 10, 15 minutes or so, like prior to him going to the fort in California, it did feel like it was going to be a very different experience, because it did have a very serious tone to it at the beginning. You know, you're dealing with a guy who effectively has PTSD from, you know, understandably, you know, a traumatic experience, watching his friends die and essentially playing dead for hours while, you know, and essentially on the one hand is being rewarded for it, but that's only superficial, because the truth is, like, they want him out. And so I did find the idea of promoting up
yes
was quite interesting, and probably somewhat reflective of, I don't know, modern politics as such. I mean, we all know someone who's in a position of power in our government who perhaps shouldn't be there, you know, and regardless of what side of the spectrum you sit on, I'd argue all of them. There we go.
Nice.
But yeah, once he gets to the fort, and, you know, you start getting introduced to the new character, you know, the new characters into it, you kind of, you realise fairly quickly that okay, this isn't going to be a straight up like horror film. There are going to be comedic. I mean, that opening sort of title does sort of set the tone, I think, in that regard. So it's not as if you're surprised about it. I tell you what I do like though about that opening scene is how they really sort of emphasise the eating, the chewing sounds, and just I really did like that, and how the guy, because obviously we knew before going into this that this was going to be a cannibal film anyway, just from the brief conversations we had, and I immediately assumed that they were eating people at that point. I didn't realise that had nothing, that wasn't anything to do with that until a bit later on. But the fact that they highlighted that and made the chewing sounds just sound as grotesque and awful as it was, and like how and how Boyd's steak, or, you know, whatever it was he was eating, like, was just so much more bloody than everybody else's. It looked really unappetizing. And then again, like, he takes one bite, and what does he do? Throws it up, and he's almost like rejecting it, like he does with the cannibalism in general. But then there's times when he does accept it, i.e. to save his life with Knox. But yeah, like, generally speaking, I thought I liked that opening bit in particular. That was a really strong opening, I think.
It's strong. It's definitely strong. It's fast paced. The titles flying across the screen is what made me think it was quite modern, and sort of undercutting the title by basically having the guy vomit onto it. Made me, again, I can only call it sort of Gen X energy. It reminded me of, like, it just had that editing energy of the film Dogma, where it was then quite weird to see it in a historical setting with that energy.
I can see that. Yeah, because now you mention it, they were sort of coming in left, right, up, down, and quite quickly and in and out, weren't they?
They were. It's one of those quite dated things, and you don't know if it was intended for being to be dated, or to sort of go against the historical vibe, or if it was just like, this is a cool thing we can do now. Let's do the fast title.
Yeah.
It's a bit hard to know. It's a bit hard to know, but I like that you picked up that thing at the start with the munching. Oh, do you think maybe Peter Jackson saw this and thought, oh yeah, when Denethor's munching down in Return of the King, I'm going to think of my good old pal Ravenous, and I'm going to go for that big close up and really up the sound of the chomping.
Yeah, maybe.
Oh, it's
Who
just
knows?
like that stomach
But yeah,
churning.
yeah, it was.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
I sort of just Joe saying the vomit comes after the American flag. Big zoom on American flag. Again, it's just me maybe because I wasn't really looking for any sort of like political messaging as such. I'm not denying it's not there. I mean, especially when it comes from the mouth of the from the people that made the film. But I wasn't intentionally picking up on it. Or mind you, the only thing I really think that I really sort of went, oh, okay, that sounds like political commentary, is when they talks about promoting this geezer up for his incompetence. That's the only really thing I picked up on.
Had a nice bit of cynicism in, that
Yeah.
that and Office Space in the same year. We've got all sorts of cynicism.
Yeah.
I love it.
But I felt quite. But again, just again, I did feel like the opening was quite strong. It got me invested in this guy quickly because it was like, here's a guy who has obvious character flaws. Clearly, this is going to be our protagonist. Then surely we're going to have some sort of character arc. He's going to overcome it and whatnot. So I was quite interested to see how that would pan out.
Yeah, it's a lot to get into. I'm struggling with this because I kind of want to pick up on those threads, TCG. I kind of want to take that thread and follow it. But shall I give a little bit of the production history and then we'll get fully into it? We'll do a quick plot rundown. We'll do our own Guinness challenge. And all right, folks. So I think I can't say for certain, but I think the reason there's a slight change in the energy before he gets to the fort is because this film had a bit of an interesting production history. Now I've got some difficult names to say, so I'll struggle for this. But it was written by a chap called Ted Griffin, and he looks like a pretty reliable bloke. Basically, he's done a load of stuff I find very cool. So Terriers. Which was created by Sean Ryan, who is the guy who made The Shield. The Shield I absolutely love. Such a great series. And Ted Griffin was one of the guys working on that for a fair old while. So I'm thinking, this is a pretty reliable guy. He's done bigger, more friendly stuff like Ocean's 11. But the fact that this guy was on The Shield is a massive, upvote for me. But when he was doing... Have you watched The Shield, by the way?
I haven't, no.
Oh, you would binge it. And I saw Richard in the chat. Richard, I know you love The Wire. If you like The Wire, The Shield, I think you would go for. So good, reliable writer. He had a tough time on this. He was required to get on set to basically do daily rewrites.
Daily?
Yeah, this is not how you want to do. Often you have a writer around the set, but there were intense rewrites, and the intense rewrites are largely down to a woman called Laura Ziskin. Laura Ziskin, I hope I'm pronouncing that correct. It's a Russian Jewish name, so I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's spelled Ziskin. She was how can I say? She was president of Fox 2000. Let me get that correct. Yes, Fox 2000, which was a production company, which like loads of major studios, they'll have a division just to pick up and help produce independent films. Like you'll have heard of Spotlight, or even Dimension films from Miramax, which we will know and love here because Dimension was Miramax's division for independent, slightly offbeat horror films, including our beloved Scream was a Dimension film. So Fox 2000 is on board to pick up these odd little movies and see if they can make something of them. And very early, this is sort of in the first 5 years of Fox 2000 existing, Ziskin greenlights this, starts getting it going, but she's very hands-on. She's not a relaxed producer. She is really in there with the production, like the most micromanaging. Have you been micromanaged, TCG? Do you know the joy of that?
I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it.
Oh man,
It's the worst.
I was going to go into a story about a micromanager. I think I'll avoid it for this one.
Oh no, do share.
Oh, go on. So I was at a previous workplace. I was helping out another team that had a difficult data task that they couldn't crunch, and it was important to them. So the head of the team comes and sits with me, right? Just to make sure I've got the details. I'm like, yeah, I can run it. This is not too difficult. I can do it. I've got your notes. It's fine. And she's like, oh, can you just run through it just so I can see? All right, yeah, I do it. And we've been there for quite a while going through the instructions, like about an hour, right?
Yeah.
And after this, I'm like, oh, this is pretty intense. Like, you're sitting right next to me watching me do it. Don't you have stuff to do? And I say, look, sorry, I'm going to do this. I've just got to take a comfort break. I'm just going to pop to the loo. And she says, okay, how long will you be?
Oh, my God. Oh, no. Stop it. Just leave me alone, is what I'm trying to say. Bugger off!
Number 1 or number 2? Because like, I can take a call, you know.
I'll take a number 3 if it gets me away from you.
Oh, the Friday afternoon homeworking special, eh?
What every day's a work from home day for me now. GB, no, TCB doesn't micromanage me, thankfully. He's a good lad.
Good to hear.
It's one of the first things I tell my managers when they first take over. I'm like, look, best thing to do is just not micromanage me. I hate it. And they're normally like, yeah, I hate micromanaging too. And I'm like, good, we agree then.
Oh, sweet, yeah. I'm with it. I like being. I'm a tad oppositional, to be honest. So the more hands off you are, the better the relationship. But... Exactly.
I'm exactly the same. I'm like, look, just, you know, if you have the only time I want to hear from you is when you have a problem. and then I'll say I'm sorry, and then we'll crack on. But
I love the sound of that.
Other than that, like, yeah, you don't need to check up on me every 5 minutes. I'm okay. Our one-to-ones last about 15 minutes and they're booked for an hour because he's like,
heaven.
Is there anything you want to discuss? I'm like, nope.
Oh, I love it.
And he's like, brilliant.
Anything you want to discuss? Yeah, true crime. Are you subbed?
Unironically, we do. Unironically, but I say to it, you know, he's a good lad, and he's a good lad. I've got nothing bad to say about the guy. He looks after us.
I'm glad to hear it. Well, I'm not saying that the producer Laura Ziskin was in there checking on ones and twos, timing everyone on the toilet. But I can tell you that she was providing daily notes on all the rushes. The rushes are just the quick and dirty, unedited reels you get, the footage you got from the day that you'll check at the end of the shoot, of the work shoot, to see if you roughly got the shots that you needed that you can edit with. She's looking at that. She's providing very detailed feedback on this, basically saying to the director, you need to go back and fix that. I've got a quote from the director here. Let's see. Where is it? Oh, come on here. No, I had him saying it. Where is it? Got it. Right. Quote. Don't clip this. It was all about who's got a bigger dick. The Fox 2000... Careful now. Fox 2000 executive Laura Ziskin was micromanaging everything I did, vetoing technicians, casting even the smallest part, yet it was me who put together that great cast. Every day I'd get notes on the rushes from her, saying the uniforms were too dirty or there weren't enough close-ups of David Arquette. Then one day, she just got on a plane unannounced and came over with a new director to replace me. That sounds fun. Now, in fairness, if you look up the articles on this, they do say there was a further conflict over budgeting because the director wanted to do a little... Damn it, guys, do not...
It's the worst thing you do. I've learned it the hard way. You don't ask them not to clip it. They won't pick up on it.
I say this like I don't love Lotus Eaters out of context, so I can't really complain. All right, so there's a big conflict. Now, you may have noted, the director wanted to do about 2 weeks extra shooting, which is a fair amount of money. And that's an additional conflict. So basically, it could be a bit of 6 of one, half a dozen of another. But either way, it's pretty much Laura Diskin, exec producer, the person with the money power, if you will, pushes the original director out. That original director, I'll just get in there, was a Macedonian American by the name of, I'm so sorry, director, Milcho Manchevsky. Apologies. He was on for about 3 weeks doing stuff, which I think is almost certainly that early footage.
Okay.
And then he's kicked off. The director that they tried to bring in was a guy called Raja Gosnell. Interesting name. He's not Indian. He's regular American, but his parents liked the culture, so that's why he's got an Indian name. Interesting. He was the director of Home Alone 3. Would you say that was Scarlett Johansson's best work?
Oh my god, I forgot she was in that.
Little random trivia you remember?
Yeah, no.
Oh, alas.
I'm not a fan of anything beyond Home Alone 2.
I can go with that. I can completely go with it. It's the Tim Curry makes it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the cast find out that this guy is brought in to replace the director that they're getting on with, and they kick off. They go on strike. They say they're not going to go along with it. So Home Alone 3's director heads off, and as that's a bit of a panic, you got the risk of everything flopping. Robert Carlyle.
Clip that.
Oh no! Damn it! What did I say?
The risk of everything flopping.
Oh, that's not too bad. Anyway,
we'll just splice it in later.
Robert Carlyle calls his mate Antonia Bird. He'd worked with her in the past, and you can be cynical about this if you want, but you can say that he's getting Antonia Bird in because he co-owns a production company with her. And so when she comes on and Heyday Films gets a production credit, then he might make a little more cash off it. You know, you could be very cynical and say that. I think realistically, I don't go for that too much. Maybe that's like 30% of the reason. The other is he's worked with her a bunch. He knew realistically she was going to be free. Yeah. And he's someone that he could get on with and trust, and would get in and get the production going again when it's stalled.
Yeah.
Because everything is sort of broken down for like a couple of weeks at this point. That's a lot of money. And they're in Slovenia wondering what's going on. So you can understand it, right?
Definitely.
Yeah. Antonia Bird comes on. She is where a fair bit of the politics comes in. We don't know how much the original director was going to do. We don't know what was in the original vision from Ted Griffin. But the fact that he was doing some rewrites every day makes you think the new director and the producer are probably having a bit of an input. And that's where we're going to see some of the politics of the film coming from. As I say, we're not going to make that the whole stream, but we would be skipping out on things if we would be underselling it, underanalyzing, robbing you a bit if we didn't talk about it. So we'll cover it a bit. So the woman on the top there, I'm afraid, unfortunately, you're not seeing all of it. She's a bit covered by the StreamYard duck.
Probably for the best.
Unfortunate, yeah. That would be Laura Diskin, and below her is Antonia Bird. Both of them, sad to say, died a bit before their time, really, unfortunately. So that's partially why I don't want to go as hard, but on them. But there are quite a few quotations where they're saying they do want to make their vision known. And Antonia Bird is very much someone who comes up from British TV, BBC, and basically what she makes is, sort of issue of the day films. That sort of career path.
Okay.
She also randomly did this little British crime thriller by the name of Face, if you remember that.
No, I don't recall that.
It had Ray Winston in it. Little British robbery film.
No. Sorry.
Yeah. As Joe said, grim social justice films. You're not wrong. They are basically, here's an institution, here's a massive problem with it. And I have to say, basically, yeah, sort of easier targets these days. She was very much on message. So that film she did, Safe, was the first starring role, I believe, of one Damon Albarn.
Okay.
Yeah. So Damon Albarn of Blur and the chap who does the soundtrack on this. I'm not certain, but I sort of think that might have been how he got involved, but I'm not certain. I could be wrong on that one. I could definitely be wrong. But yeah, with her on board, the production gets going. But again, I think she may have provided a bit of a steer to it. Wasn't a big production. It's about $2 million. But, you can get quite a lot done with $2 million in Slovenia.
Definitely, yeah.
Oh, actually, no, wait, sorry, wrong way round. Sorry, $12 million. Box office was about $2 million, but it didn't really get pushed out in many places. So, what can you do? What can you do? All right. We did get a fairly uncut version of it. America lost a few seconds so that they could get a favourable rating. Here, we got it pretty uncut. The version that went out on streaming in the 2000s lost about 3 minutes. That's as best I can tell. We've basically got the full version here. That is the that is a production overview. Sorry, I've been going on for ages, TCG.
No, go in. No, you know more about this stuff than I do.
I just found it interesting.
Interesting.
I thought the old switcheroo of the directors was quite funny. That's why I chose this background image here. I'm thinking like this is the original director, and then this is this again, and then this is a cast holding them to. Anyway, basically, it's a power struggle. It was a power struggle on this, so I think it's kind of amazing that we got a film that was as coherent as it is.
I'm just amazed that we got that they did like almost daily rewrites. Is that some? I'm assuming that's not normal in films. I imagine that there would be rewrites as a film's made, but like almost daily just sounds. Yeah, definitely sounds a bit over the top.
It's not normal, but it's not impossible. Quite a few times you'll see where it's kind of chaotic, and I'm trying to think of examples, but my brain is going blank. But there are many cases where you do just have a writer on set to fix issues.
Right.
I seem to remember a story with Jack Nicholson just refusing to learn lines because he said, if I memorize it, it'll have changed by the time I get to set.
Brilliant.
I'm trying to think, yeah. Joe, as I said, I think rewrites are probably along the lines of getting the message in. I don't think the message will be the general idea. All right. So with that said, we'll do a quick overview of the plot, and then we'll go into the sort of meaty topics, what that message of the film was, some of the imagery in there, that yin-yang aspect, some of the deeper stuff in here. So I've talked for ages. I'll get this off the screen. And TCG, can I hand over to you for a quick pint of Guinness summary of the film?
Yeah, sure. So our main protagonist on screen, Boyd, is being awarded for some sort of medal of bravery or whatever it was. I can't remember now. For his actions in getting behind the enemy lines of the enemy, but it's actually he's being promoted up because the truth is that he was actually very cowardly. He pretended to be dead and he didn't help out his fellow man. And it was just out of sheer fluke that he ended up behind enemy lines because his body was plonked in alongside all of the other actual dead people. And so he gets cast off to this fort in California where essentially all the social rejects get sent to. With your typical one-dimensional characters, and as he's settling in, a rather dishevelled man turns up to the fort, and he explains that they were exploring, or they were travelling towards to the New World, basically, and they got lost after the tour guide, or whatever his name was, Ives, funnily enough, Colonel Ives, sent them off a different track, allegedly for a shortcut. When the cold weather set in, they had to hunker up in a cave, and they ended up eating the oxen, his dog, and eventually the other people there. And he explains this with a very traumatic tone in his voice. It transpires that he fled a la 28 weeks later, leaving a woman there with allegedly Colonel Ives. And so the guys at the fort decide, right, we need to go and try and save this woman. So they travel there. Oh, but big shock! It turns out, oh man, here is Colonel Ives, and it's a trap. And then he starts taking out the guys one by one.
If I may, there was a really cool thing I noticed. Like in the flashbacks, you never see Ives.
No,
and it's just it's a nice little thing of. You just think, oh, because he was Ives. Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, nicely done.
You're getting a flashback from a POV, aren't you? Yeah. And then Boyd survives that encounter, goes back to the camp, and it turns out... And then the old generals come down and like to try and get... To find out what happened. He obviously tells them the truth, and they're like, mate, you got to change your story. And then... They have a new fort leader come through, and it's none other than Colonel Ives himself. And of course, the guy Boyd does the most eccentric feint, face planting the wall on his way down. Mwah.
It's so he can eat the scenery, you know. If you want to chew the scenery, you've got to get right up against it.
Yeah. And and then you find out that. Not everybody is as dead as was first thought. But it turns out our good old boy Ives is a cannibal, and he's taken a liking to Boyd because he learns of because how the guy got behind enemy lines or had the strength within him to take the enemy was as he was lying there with all the bodies on top of him, like the blood was seeping down into his mouth, and he essentially consumed his fellow man, and stole their strength.
You could say there's it's almost like his conflict begins at that point.
Exactly.
It's like that's almost where Ives comes from symbolically.
Yeah.
Is he does that for the first time, and then he has a conflict. He's shut down after that. He's got his self that did that and gained the strength from it, and the self that's uncomfortable. And then the rest of the film is like that resolution.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Although he does. It's no. He does have a couple of moments, but he has a couple more moments in that film where it happens. Like so, after the encounter, the first encounter, when the big reveal happens, his leg's broken. But I should point out, Reich is also dead at this point. And can I just say, Reich has the most creepy smile dead man face.
Oh, does he
I've
now?
ever
Or,
seen. Are you going to show it?
Oh yeah. You think I'm not going to get a photo
I
of
was gonna
that?
say.
That was awful.
Yeah.
This
It was
thing
freaky. I mean, look at that.
it needs to be hanging out the back of a Denny's in Mulholland Drive. That's if he's going to look like that.
It looks like a doll, you know. It looks like one of those like creepy doll faces.
Yeah, it's rictus. Apologies if anyone was eating, but there's some nightmare fuel for you.
Yeah, is it Rictus?
It looks rictus. I mean, it's kind of rictus, isn't it?
Oh, right, yeah. But his name
Rictus
is
Grim.
Reich, isn't it?
Oh yeah, sorry. His name,
Yeah.
yes, the blonde-haired, blue-eyed soldier who's all about fighting is called Reich.
Yeah, I'm sure there's no. I'm sure there was no political message within that. From
What
the
did they mean
socialist.
by this?
What could they have meant by that? Blonde hair, blue eyes. What on earth could they have meant? I don't know.
I was wondering about
Who knows?
Teufler, because Teufler it sounds to me a bit like Teufel. So German, that's devil. So like the religious guy has got sounds a bit Teufler, but I think that's probably a reach. So there's probably another reason that Teufler is called Teufler, but I don't know.
Right. But yeah, anyway, so he ends up eating him though to heal his leg and get back to the camp. And then he gets injured again, I think, later on in the film. And
He does, yes.
and he gets stabbed by Ives. And this is after our favourite drunkard, Dr. Knox, has been killed. And he has to basically eat him again to recover his strength and heal his wounds. So there are a couple of moments in the film where he does succumb to that temptation, because he could have just chose to die at that point if he really didn't want to do anything with it.
True, it was forced on him again, which is kind of odd because it had already been forced on him once, but then I guess it's made a bit more explicit that he's stabbed in the gut, and then it's the food is in front of him, and it's like literally, again.
Yeah, I
you
mean,
can eat with us, you can join us, or you can die.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite. I mean, the first time it happens, you could argue it was unintentional almost, because he physically couldn't move. Like all the blood was like seeping into his mouth, and of course he was going to ingest some of it. So that's fine. You can sort of chalk that off. But it's almost like a drug addiction, because like once you get that first hit, it's, you almost want more, and that's kind of what to me at the time represented. That guy who got that hit loved the feel from it, and needed more, needed to get another fix. And as the film, as it progresses, it gets more and more, because they describe it like that through the Wendigo lore, like Wendigo lore. So sorry, the more that you consume, the more you need to satisfy that hunger, and it gets worse, and it gets more intense each time.
You're making the director's day at this point. This is pretty much exactly what she said. Let me I think I've got a quote from her here. Robert Carlyle's character is the ultimate drug pusher, and Guy Pearce's character is the ultimate junkie.
Yeah.
And she meant that to refer to all sorts of things. So plastics. She was talking about, obviously we're going to have some deeply subversive readings in here, but she was also, the director Antonia Bird was also thinking about Hollywood as well.
Okay.
About how kind of unhealthy dependencies that get pushed on you in Hollywood. By the way, chat, I see chat's nice and busy tonight. Forgive me. I'm going to have to ask if you've turned up. If you're enjoying it so far, help us out. Drop a like on this stream. You know how YouTube is.
Yeah,
and,
one like equals one entry.
Is that how your parties run?
Exactly.
Yes. There we go. So yeah, you picking up on that, Antonia Bird, bless her. She would be proud. She passed away 10 years ago. In 2013, yeah.
Amanda makes a great point, and I actually agree with this. I think there is more of an altruistic element to it. It's not like it isn't. Like I say, with Boyd, it's not it's not black and white. Like he doesn't want to do it. You know, he doesn't want to consume the meat, or the human meat. But like Amanda says, you know, if he doesn't, who's going to stop Ives? You know, what's going to happen? So with him, at least when he does consume the human meat, he is there is a justification for it. I mean, he hasn't directly been involved in the killing of these people. You know, it was all Ives who's done it also. And you know, he even says to Reich before he starts, before he's like, "You're dead," you know, you're safe. You know, it's almost like, yeah, it's all right for you because you're in a position now where you don't have to worry about this. I do though, and I've got to do something. So sorry, mate, I'm gonna nick in your coat, but I'm just gonna have a bite to eat before I leave.
You know, it's so interesting you say that because I mean, just since Amanda raised that, we should probably stick on it because it is important. It's it's basically one of 3 instances. The first time he's got absolutely no idea what's happening when he's ingesting blood. You know, total ignorance. When he is in the pit with Reich, it's a matter of absolute desperation. He's totally confused about it. If you remember, he's saying to Reich, "Tell me what to do. Tell me what to do, Major." Like he's asking for an order. So he's kind of in his nadir, if you will. He is in the pit. He is literally at his lowest point.
Yeah.
Like he literally fell so far, right?
Yeah.
And then I don't know if you noticed when he comes out of that pit. Oh my gosh! Please say I have a photo of it. All right, okay. I'm going to get this up so you can see what I mean. I failed you a bit. I don't have a screen cap of it.
Are you thinking
but
like rebirth
hopefully you
moment?
remember. It's kind of a rebirth moment. Okay, so look at what he's wearing. They're all wearing the same uniform. Okay, this is what he's wearing before he goes in the pit. By the way, good luck to... I figured if I use the British censorship for the old bubbins for a bit of saucy stuff, I think when it's too much gore, my boy Rishi comes out.
Brilliant.
Right? How about that? Yeah, I can't show that on stream, but let's just say they earned their 18 rating. So anyway, what I wanted to look at is a coat that Private Reich is wearing. Now you look at this. This is blue on the outside, red on the inside, right?
Okay.
When Boyd comes out of the pit, having eaten Reich, his coat is turned inside out. It's red on the outside. He is quite literally a turncoat. Like he's coming out basically having betrayed.
Right.
So he's done something out of absolute desperation. It's his real conflict. He's kind of aware of what he did, but by the end of the film, he is going to have to make a conscious decision. And that's why the third time is the most important. So Amanda's comment there, going back to it, it's a great comment.
Yeah.
When he goes back, he's doing it for a more considered place. He knows what it means, and he's got a purpose to it. So Amanda, absolutely. If people aren't reading it on screen, I'll just read it out. When Boyd eats Reich, and again when he eats Knox, I think it's more altruistic than wanting to survive and wanting the fix. If he dies there, then there's no one to stop Ives. That was my reading. Correct. Yeah. I think there's that character arc between eating Reich and eating Knox.
Yeah. I mean, essentially, it boils down to the fact that there's two two different perspectives, and hence why I was saying like yin and yang. You've got Boyd, who is essentially doing it for essentially selfless reasons, you know, to ultimately be in a position to help other people. Whereas you've got Ives, who is doing it purely for self gain. You know, he's trying to. You know, I want to say improve himself, because, you know, he acknowledges that it makes him stronger, it makes him healthier, you know, and then, you know, to try and then grow and expand and effectively, you know, bring people on board with the objective of his probably in the most likely case to benefit himself more than anyone else. I mean, you see it when what was his name? Hoyt? No, what was the guy's name? The Jeffrey Jones character.
We never remember this. His
we never
character
do.
name was Colonel Hart. Oh, we were so
Hart,
close.
that's it.
So
close.
close.
When it's revealed that Colonel Hart actually didn't die, he actually was essentially brought back as a cannibal. Even he was like forced into it in a way, because he was like, I passed out. Next thing I know, I'm being like fed meat, and I'm like, and he's just instantly like sucked into it himself. But you kind of see when Boyd takes out Colonel Hart, when he's like, yeah, you got to kill me, and he does. Ives doesn't really seem that bothered about it. He's still more fixated on Boyd than Hart.
Oh, definitely. Hart is useful to him.
Yeah.
You know, he's kind of a veteran of this. He's knowing how to play it, and he's got that plan. But when it comes down to it, ultimately, he's a leader. And he will find a way. He doesn't depend on Hart. It makes it easier for him. You know, when you find out that he's come back and he's not only massacred the horses and eaten them, he's massacred Cleves. And there's a big moment of, how did you do this? When did you do this? And you find out, oh, Hart came and assisted him.
Yeah.
I see. So we're sort of we get up to that moment, and then it's I think it's, I should know this because I rewatched it today just to get the details right. So they have this moment, and Knox is killed pretty much just as Hart comes back, isn't he?
Yes.
There we go.
Yeah, it's Hart coming back that introduces that gets Knox killed, because it's I believe it was Hart that took the sword, because he comes in and he complains to Ives that his sword's gone missing, and he's like, I don't know. Then you're like, yeah, and then it's revealed that Hart was the one who killed the horses, and something else. I can't remember what else happened, but yeah, he was responsible, and yeah, he took out Knox, and obviously Ives is out here at the time. Prior to this bit happening, he's out there butchering the body, ready to make dinner.
He is indeed. Yes. They sit round, and then basically Ives thinks he hasn't fully he wants Boyd to join him, but he's not fully convinced him, so he forces a decision on him by stabbing him. And then sits him down to dinner in, I think, what's probably the funniest scene, when they're all sort of done up, and Boyd is just dying there, like he's out. He's at death's door, and they're literally eating their buddy, eating Knox, and Ives says, "Isn't this civilized?" Now it's a deeply subversive comment for the intention of the film, but also, crikey, it was funny.
Yeah, I felt like it. I felt like it was layered in massive levels of sarcasm, which I appreciated.
Totally.
Again, at the time, I didn't get any deep reading out of it. So, I mean, obviously, if the commie was trying to make a political statement, it went over my head.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get into it a bit, but I think it's part of the idea that comes in is that the civilization is inherently sort of destructive, or basically the Western civilization, the Western expansion. In particular, if you want to just narrow it, then you could say that is deeply expansive. So the civilization we have, and she means Hollywood as well, is for this greatness, it's very destructive at the same time. For you to have this civilized dinner, you are literally having to have a group of people that are killed and eaten. That's sort of what she's getting at.
Yeah, Dr. Prepper says, I think there was also a joke about the alcohol content of the meat. There
Oh,
was, yeah.
yes.
As he's butchering it, he's like, yeah, it's a shame, despite Knox's alcohol consumption, that it didn't turn the meat pink or something. It didn't pinken out the meat.
Yeah, I liked the earlier line about Knox having a little too much bourbon in his bourbon.
Yes.
I like that a lot.
And there was another one as well where he was like, "Oh, this is before all this happens," and he Hart offers. He's like, "Oh, Knox has just passed out with a lovely bottle of like vintage, like whatever it was." He was wondering if you'd like to join me for a drink, and he's like, "Wouldn't Knox mind?" And he went, "Probably."
I did find out some slightly. I feel bad saying it because he gets some great lines here, but it's a tad unfortunate about Hart and his casting. Jeffrey Jones is an actor I enjoy. He was in Ed Wood, which is a bit of a favourite film of mine.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that he was also convicted for some rather awful things about 2 years after this movie.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm afraid he had the hard drives of a BBC executive, if you take my meaning.
Okay. Yep. Oh, mate. Right.
Yeah,
Ew.
2002. Not great. So after that, quite a big break, and then he comes back for Who's Your Caddy in 2007 with Lil Wayne. Yeah.
Wait, what?
Terry Crews. Yeah.
Who the
Lil
frick's
Wayne.
hiring this nonce? Apparently Lil Wayne.
Yeah, it's a golf-based comedy for the urban demographic.
And they're quite happy to have this. Ew.
Who knew Lil Wayne was in a movie?
Yeah.
Sorry. I've looked that up. I conferred. Unfortunate. Yes, Jeffrey Jones. Yes, not Moriarty. Yeah. He is indeed. He had a penguin. He'd been watching Captain Planet whilst eating cheese pizza. It's not good. It's very not good. Forgive me, folks, if you're not picking up the YouTube code there, but we have to do it. I felt it would be a bit wrong if I didn't say it. Yeah, grim stuff. Sorry, we kind of derailed there. We're pretty much at the showdown. If you want to take us from there to the finale, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Okay. Oh my god, my head has just gone completely blank. What the hell happened?
Do you want me to run with it? Because I kind of threw you off there.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I would say though the choice of putting a cross on his forehead was like really weird to do that. I do know they sort of like have this like end battle and it's a bit back and forth, yada yada yada. Culminates with them both being caught in a bear trap when it's just like a race to see who dies first. But yes, go. Yeah, feel free to go into much more detail.
Oh, no worries. Well, I'd probably do it when we're breaking it down. Hang on there. I've got the bear trap. Does that give you South Park flashbacks? Early South Park.
Oh God, what?
Grass up in a bear trap, won't find for days. It's the old Fat Albert parody.
Right.
Sorry, it's a random one to come back to me there. So, yeah, as you say, it effectively, Ives now knows that Boyd isn't going to go along with it, so they do have to face off. There's an important point. I don't know if. Sorry, there's so much to say about this film. Before this facing off, Boyd goes to Martha. Because Martha is one of the Native Americans who are there on camp. As you say, everyone's kind of one-dimensional. She and her brother are basically perfect. George maybe likes the traditional herbs a bit too much, but Martha is incredibly reliable. There's some fun humour around her that I quite liked. This is a very feminist director, but in this, she restrained herself. There wasn't too much soapboxing. The message is in there, but it is not shouted into your ear with a megaphone. Boyd goes to Martha for advice on how to defeat the Wendigo, and she's got a very interesting answer. She says, you don't stop it. You don't stop Wendigo. You must give yourself, you must die. She kind of uses Wendigo almost like it's a verb. Now, she's speaking in a slightly broken English, and I think that's good screenwriting because it lets her use it lets Ted Griffin, the screenwriter, give her lines that make Wendigo a verb and a noun. So it's like you're trying to stop the Wendigo, but it makes it sound like Wendigo is a process. So the message of that kind of destructive civilization, that in order to reach these heights and increase your hierarchy, you are going to be destructive at the same time, which is, I think, was already identified as a... Who said this already? Because it was a good observation. Stop stealing my brain. Yeah, Dr. Prepper had it. Yes, it is a Marxist and Rousseauian take that society is zero-sum. If one person gains, another person loses.
Right.
So she sort of has that vision. The idea that Wendigo is a process. For you to get big, someone else must get small. So she says, she's asked, how do I stop Wendigo? And she says, you don't. You stop Wendigo, you must give yourself, you must die. Which I think means she also sees him as a Wendigo. She knows he did it as well. And it really fits that idea that effectively we've talked about and will still talk about a bit more. The idea of Boyd and Ives as yin and yang. So that's a little detour. Martha actually goes off in a really kind of funny thing. Knox is being a bit of a sod and wants to stay with his booze. So when Martha has to go and get the higher-ups for the situation to alert them about the death of Cleves and the horses, he stands over her and just says, do you fancy volunteering to go to town to do the 3-day trek? And it's shot with just this view of her low down between his legs, just volunteering. And I thought she looked so sort of unimpressed.
Yeah.
All right. I know this is a classic feminist point about how women get the dirty jobs, etc. She's low down. Look, he's basically dominating her. This is a slightly sexual thing as well. But gosh darn it, this is funny. It's a funny moment. The fact that she is so just sort of sarcastic about it. His pretense is just not humoured at all. She's so sarcastic and I really liked her.
Yeah, I thought she was all right. I do. Sorry, I just want to go back to the whole Wendigo thing. It's quite interesting, like how them two would be able to sort of identify and spot that. I mean, they're quite deep within their, obviously, keep deep within their I don't know if religion would be the right word. So it makes sense because again, like, is it George, the other one? He seems. This is the running fox geezer.
Yes, that's the guy.
Yeah. He seemed to pretty much identify what was going on at the moment. Do you know what I mean? Like when as they were trekking, like he was quite skeptical of Robert Carlyle's character.
Oh yeah.
You know, and so it makes sense that she too would be able to sort of spot those signs and sort of.
Oh yeah, George is onto him from the start, isn't he? He just points at him and says Wendigo.
Wendigo.
George is actually really important and drops some very good information. You know, the kind of downside of having a very smart audience is they actually get there ahead of me a lot of times. So for those of you who commented on this, forgive me, you know this stuff already. We'll get to it because these details are actually quite hard to catch if you don't. You got to be there with a pause button. Right, so we've had that thing. Martha goes, and then Ives knows he's got to do the face-off. This is where we have the yin and yang conflict, and it looks cool, but if we're going to be very honest about this, this is basically for a moment of I'm just going to get all my symbolism out. You remarked on Ives getting the crucifix on his head in blood, making a cross on his forehead in blood.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yes, he doesn't have a real story reason to do it, but it is very much it's basically we're going to do the symbolism. You notice he goes into all red. Boyd goes back into all blue. The soldier's uniform is a red and blue combo. So this is about the yin and yang really separating because they're about to conflict.
Yeah.
So he gets the blood cross on his head. Did you notice the first thing he's attacked with?
Oh God, no.
It's a pitchfork.
Pitchfork. Oh, okay.
So you've kind of got. I mean, I associate the pitchfork with the devil.
Yeah.
And he's got the cross on his head, so we are doing big symbolism here. It's heaven and hell.
Michael
it's red
versus
blue.
It's Michael versus Lucifer. Supernatural season 5. Here we go, guys.
That's what it is. They got on all in. Yeah, the symbolism is absolutely loaded here.
Yeah.
What can we do?
I mean, fine, use a pitchfork. That's fine. Just whacking a cross on the guy's forehead just completely. Just didn't make sense at all in the slightest. I mean,
no, not in story terms.
No.
Terms.
And just his general character as well. I mean, he doesn't allude to. I mean, the only time he alludes to God really was when he said that he went back in when he got back to the cave and saw them munching on the guy and the smell of meat, and he thanked God. I mean, that's so. It's kind of like it's kind of antithetical to. But I mean, that's the only time you hear that reference, and it's not really. He doesn't really bring up his religious beliefs again. So it just seems so strange that he would decide to do something like that before the old end boss battle. Really, it just it didn't make sense.
It is purely for symbolism. They went. What did we call this? Jordan Peele syndrome.
Right.
Like. I have no story reason for it, but for message and symbolism purposes, we're going to do this thing. So, I mean, I can't complain. I have a weak spot for it if I like the message. So I can't be too hard on this, but let's be clear. That's what it is. And as we know, ultimately, this is a thing that he's been forewarned. He has to let himself go. He has to sacrifice himself as well, because ultimately, he can't go on. Now, he could just win the fight in a way. He doesn't actually... If he wins the fight convincingly enough, he doesn't need to die. That's a small plot problem. But,
another one, to be fair, another one is if he didn't want to die, he could have just started chowing down.
I think the idea is, like, if he chows down, he'll never break the addiction to it.
Yeah, which in a way could have been a very strong message. Battling addiction is something that isn't as easy as it could be made out to be, and that it's actually a very, very destructive and debilitating process. And like, again, just when you think you've battled it, you relapse in that final moment. Potentially even turn for the worst.
Definitely.
No going back moment.
We might have to see this as a lot more symbolic then, which I think that'd be fine, which is you have to give up your destructive habit. So this would be more, the death of the destructive habit. You've got the upsides, the downsides, you can't continue it. So the whole thing has to die. That would be a more sort of Lynchian reading where the character isn't so much a character, but representing an idea.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, just quickly here. Not Moriarty. We aim to go for between 2 to 2.5 hours. At about 2.5 hours, Super Nanny comes in and we get an absolute scolding. So we try and We try and be prompt. It's a super nanny rule. If that makes no sense, don't worry. That's some deep lore. That's some deep lore on the stream. Stick around. You'll get all the in jokes. All right. So yeah, that's how we might read it. There's also at the moment final things is John Spencer's character has a taste of the old knock stew and has quite a liking for it, which is a bit of a sneaky foreshadowing. You know, the higher ups can't resist it, and also Martha at that point gives up and just leaves the plantation and returns to nature. So that is our plot. That is our plot. What do we make of it?
Yeah, it's all right.
I think you said that mid. This film has got people passionate about it, but I can tell me a bit more about your feelings.
There's not really much I can say really. I did find it quite mid. I personally would have liked it to have more of a darker tone to it than sort of like the comedic bits that they were putting in there, like the old hillbilly music chase scene with the old with Toffler and I keep forgetting his name, Ives, or Coughlin, whatever his, what was it? Cole Coon, as he was calling himself at the beginning. Yeah. I just think some of the comedic elements were a bit not out of place. Well, no, yeah, I'd probably say a bit out of place in my liking. But at the same time, like, I know it was trying to portray itself as a dark comedy. It's just I'm like you in that I do find it a bit jarring when, you know, you're trying to have this, you know, serious scary movie, you know, and then it's like, we've got to put the funny, we've got to put a funny bit in now. We've got to put a funny bit in, but it's still a horror thriller type film. But you know, you got to have a bit of stupidity in moments. It's just,
I struggle to know how to respond to it. I'm tense. It's a horror film, right? I'm invested. I need to be quite invested to feel fear for the scenario. And then if you hit me with the older Deliverance banjo music as Tuffler legs it, I'm like, oh, sorry. Like, those are very different tones. Those are very different emotional states to be in. So I find it difficult. It's also it's just like my personal bias, but I often read comedies sort of telling me not to take a thing too seriously.
Yeah, that's that. I like that.
But I want to do massive reaches.
Yeah.
I want to overanalyze.
Well, that's it. I mean, I felt like I was getting too distracted at points of this film, because I'm watching the film, I'm watching it thinking, okay, you know, it gets serious, and all I can think in the back of my head is like, when's the next comedy bit coming? You know, are we? Is this all just, you know, is this particular scene just a setup or not? And I did find myself sort of not being able to get as into it as I'd hoped. The only character really, I mean, the only two characters that I really sort of wanted to better understand were the two people that are on screen now, and especially Boyd's, because of you know, the brief background that we're given at the start of the film. You know, it's a really interesting setup, and I just think it kind of got lost a little bit.
Yeah. It's maybe some of that was a production history. Maybe some of the like big rewrites. If you're doing that thing, it can be you can lose elements in it. Yeah,
I think the fact that you've contextualized that this evening by talking about the fact that they were doing almost daily rewrites does add weight to that. Definitely. It does make sense, and I feel like you can kind of see it. It's almost like, you know, the first 10 minutes was probably like the first draft, and then the script just got slowly butchered as the film went on.
Yeah,
it's not to say that it's a bad film as such. It's just it's not something that, I mean, I didn't leave it thinking, oh, that was an utterly crap film. Nothing like that at all. It just it felt very middle of the road for me. I wasn't like I didn't think, oh, this would be quite interesting if they did a sequel. If like one of if like I thought to myself, you know, if one of the two survived, would I want to see a sequel of it? And I'm like, not really.
Yeah, it's in terms of maybe it makes it just hard to, I think, hard to emotionally connect to is a big thing, because I don't think it's a bad story at all. There are some odd moments in it that are aspects, like when we get the reveal that Colquhoun is Ives, he's behind it, and we have that really weird little sequence where he's just crackheading out.
Yeah,
that's 40 minutes in. There is an hour to go.
Yeah,
I looked at that. I thought, hang on, what are you going to do for an hour?
I know.
That feels more midpoint, and it was really quite early, and then they do something a bit atypical with that. They do stretch it out. They do make it more interesting. The thing where Boyd comes back and and Ives is in control is an interesting mood, but it's also, it makes sense with the symbolism.
Yeah.
When he comes, this is about a character in conflict over what he has to do to live, to have power, and he gets back to the base by eating Reich, which is effectively Ives is winning out, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Ives is in charge at the point. Yeah, if you've come back, in this yin-yang model, if you have had to eat Reich to survive, then Ives is being proven right. So yeah, obviously he's in charge. Obviously your power dynamic has flipped at that point, because you're kind of losing the argument between whether Boyd's way is right or whether Ives's way is right. Sorry if I'm babbling there.
No.
I don't
You're
know
making
if I
sense.
bungled that.
No. You're making sense.
If we can, I don't know if you wanted to take it somewhere from that, but there was a little bit more. I don't think we mentioned about how similar they look to each other.
They did have similar features, didn't they? Long hair, beard.
Long hair, same beard. It changes a little bit when Ives gets back and sort of reveals himself and neatens himself up. But at that point, I know people have been patiently waiting for this. There's a bit more specifically about Ives' presentation that I could just go into quickly, if that's all right.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, certainly.
All right, lovely. So it's about Ives's, basically Ives as Jesus and being presented, and this is not in a pro-Christian way. You may be surprised to hear. So it starts off with this thing of when we first see him, just to be clear. Actually, I have this on first. Before I move on to that quickly, just something I meant to bring up earlier. This is really pivotal. When Boyd first arrives, this is so relevant to the yin-yang theme, the person in conflict, right? The split self. When Boyd gets in, he gets into his room, he closes the door, and then his mirror is on the back of the door, presenting a sort of dark, distorted version. Almost looks like blood splattered on his face.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a great way of getting that idea of basically in turmoil, when you're alone, you can shut yourself off, but you're alone with yourself. That's when you have to confront yourself, which is literally what he does here.
Yeah.
So this film,
makes sense.
Yeah, lovely bit of symbolism here. If people think we're having a harsh go on the message because it's subversive, yeah, but this is well done. All right. So it's good to note this. So the idea of Colquhoun, I'm going to leave that up just for a second because I absolutely love that screen cap you've got. Yeah. Amanda's got there before me, yes. And this is what I was going to go on to. When Colquhoun is introduced, he's got Christ-like hair and beard. Here we go. And I think you're saying, yes, he does. He moves to be more devilish by the end, 100%. So we'll show him at the start, just really quickly. So this is his Jesus-like appearance at the very start. He's got a rosary on his hand with the crucifix. That is very much...
Yeah, Joe, it just reminded me, actually. He does refer to himself as a servant of God when he's talking about this. Yeah, so that's another instance, yeah.
Yeah. He does appear to be posing as a priest initially.
Yeah.
The reference that George makes to the Wendigo also explicitly links Jesus and eating of flesh. You know, the whole white man eats body of Christ every Sunday. You know, so he's raising that similarity. We already highlighted the idea, the bit that when Ives has been shot, Boyd turns away and says, "Jesus Christ." And that's when Ives resurrects again. It's the immediate next thing that happens. I don't know how many more of these you want to do, but there are so many connections. We'll have, let's look at Ives when he's back. Let's get a good look at his face. So just to refresh ourselves, this is how he looks at the end. That's his beard at the end. And now let's go to a picture of Jesus that George had. Oh gosh, can I find that quickly? Here we go. So the Jesus George has looks a lot more like Ives there. Right. Similar hairstyle once he's cleaned up. We'll also look at his Wendigo portrait, which may take me a few seconds to find. I've got too many TCG. I couldn't stop screen capping. I went on a screen capping rampage. All right, hang on. There we go. Now I've got it. Okay. Joe's making a point that when they bathed him to warm him up, his hair is twisted, look partially like the crown of thorns. Absolutely. Absolutely. Sorry, I haven't got a screen cap for that, Joe, but that's a really good catch. This is one of George's leather paintings. This is of the Wendigo. This is on screen for about 2 seconds. It's a nice little touch. It also has a cross on it very prominently right here.
Oh, yeah.
And the Wendigo is going in through the side, kind of like the stigmata.
Oh.
Possibly a bit of a reach. There's also a halo effect just over the head here. So a bit more of the Christian imagery with the halo effect. But it looks like that is part of a, what would you call it? I want to say like a war bonnet, a Native American war bonnet. I'm not certain. But it also has the look of the halo. So for the combining the ideas of Wendigo and Christianity, of gaining your strength by consuming, and that being very tied into Western culture, we have a lot of symbolism in this movie giving you that message.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Oh, yes. Joe has mentioned it. So there we go. Yeah, that was a nice bit I caught. Did you want to pitch in anything about that?
Not really. I again, the whole symbolism stuff again just flew over my head while I was watching it. I'm not the best at picking up these sorts of things.
You're a very well balanced individual, is the thing.
I wouldn't go that far. I just don't pay attention.
There's
I did find it weird though that the Native American would be drawing a lot of Jesus stuff. I would say I did find that a bit odd.
Yeah, I mean they'd have been introduced to Christianity by missionaries, and will have taken it up to varying degrees. You know, a lot won't have wanted anything to do with Christianity. There's sort of a thing here, if you wanted to read it, that they're sort of Ives goes in as a messenger of God. That would have been the first they'd have seen of him, And then as they get to know him, they get to see a very devilish side. Ultimately towards the end, he's looking a bit more devilish here, a bit more classic.
Yeah.
Also, he's got some sick drip.
Oh yeah, guys, he wears it well, doesn't he? I just, it doesn't. Yeah, I just don't think if I was. I know she's trying to take a big old doody over Christianity, but I wouldn't be too offended or concerned about it. If just if I was deep into it, because I mean, for me, it doesn't hit the way that I think the director intended it to do, which is just another example as to why socialism doesn't work. They can't.
Oh, totally. It
just doesn't connect for me. Like typical bad guy dresses in a fiendish way. Okay, that doesn't mean it's Christianity. What are you trying to say?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's not a strong criticism because it misunderstands the purpose of taking Holy Communion and eating the body of Christ. That is symbolism is all about someone disempowering themselves, taking on the punishment for other people, not.
It's not for personal self gain, and also, I mean,
it's the absolute opposite of it. So yeah, it doesn't work as an attack. There's also oh gosh, hang on. Sorry. I had a thing I was going to link it to. Some of the other criticisms don't work for me as well. I'll put this out there because this is a bit of a weird one. This is from the very start of the film. So the sort of Rousseauian criticism of basically, I guess you would say English colonialism, because it would be more English at the time. It's maybe let's say Anglo-colonialism.
Yeah.
I think this is meant to be a fun sequence right at the very start when, I'm sorry, I don't remember any character names, but John Spencer's character, which is General Slauson, he's having a load of flunkies bring in his fine furniture.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's meant to maybe look a bit pretentious, but I absolutely rejected it. I was like, no, this is Chad. This is very cool. Actually, literally, yes, civilizing means bringing high art and culture. I'm not saying, if you don't have smartphones, you ain't cultured. But I'm saying this thing of him insisting on beautiful furniture, beautiful artworks being brought in is actually something that really speaks to me. I sort of Chad yes this image.
Oh yeah, I had no problems with this whatsoever.
Yeah.
Like again,
this is good.
If they're trying to pin this as some sort of negative message, it's like it didn't work.
Yeah. This is just hierarchy. He is their better, and he is demanding his good office, and because it is to be good, it will be filled with items of sophistication and culture, so that you may look to it and be inspired and have a North Star to point yourself to. So Chad, yes, those privates are going to take your gorgeous ornamental coat stand all the way up a mountain and back again. He's going to Duke of York it if he needs to. Right? Because we are a cultured civilization and we produce this stuff. So absolutely, yes. Chad, yes.
And you will care for it, and you will look after it, and you will make sure that you don't scratch it.
Yeah, it's worth it. This is what we do. We make the high effort stuff. This is a point that H.P. Lovecraft made, which is that you get these societal benefits through basically aristocrats having the ability to throw money at this. This is far beyond the practical need, absolutely. But it's only aristocrats who can go beyond the practical, who can even borderline waste money on stuff, that can produce things of outstanding beauty. It is those things of impractical, unnecessary beauty that had an inordinate or just unbelievable amount of effort put into them, that stand as totems of your civilization that last for centuries. And that is why they're worth doing.
Indeed.
Unexpected Lovecraft dropping in the stream.
Whee!
Sorry, I kind of went off on one there.
But no, it is right though. Like at the end of the day, I mean, again, if you just look at this at face value, you know, there is absolutely a hierarchy here. You've got this general, I guess. I don't know what his rank was. You know, just essentially commanding his troops, and okay, it's a medial task. You know, putting stuff into his office, but you know, it's still demanding respect and care and all the things that you would expect someone in his position to demand. I didn't have a problem with it, and yeah, people should, you know, it does sort of almost like teach a level of you know, respecting the authority, respecting those in those positions of power. Perfectly reasonable things, but then, you know, if the message wasn't intended to be that, then sorry, deliver your message better.
Yeah,
because you've done cocked up, love.
Absolutely. I think he's a bit of a Chad in this one.
Nothing that General does in this movie bugs me. Like, even like, again, it's totally reasonable later on in the film when he comes, because I'm sure, I think it's the same person when they go to the fort, and you know, and he essentially gets a debrief on what happens, and he's still trying to help out the lad, even though Boyd's telling the truth. The guy's like, look, do you expect me to believe this? I mean, come on, this is a bit of a push.
Yeah, he shows him discretion. He's like, you're telling me this. Look, I'm being sympathetic to your circumstances. You've had a couple of rough experiences.
Yeah.
I'm bending the rules for you out of compassion, my dude. And then even later, like, he's been given a crazy story, and he says, yeah, he still listens. So in the bit where he gets Ives to take his shirt off,
yeah,
which also gets a chance to see how gorgeous that costume is. Oh, it looks so good. He's still listening to Boyd.
Yeah.
Like, this is good leadership. Chad, yes. Was it General
exactly.
Slouser all the way, or is he a sergeant? Let's see. He's a General Slawson.
General. Excellent.
Yeah. I did wonder if he was cast almost as a way to help the message of, like, actually, this is meant to be indicative of the current US regime because of John Spencer's role in the West Wing.
Right.
But I think actually that didn't work out because the West Wing had really only just started. So I think that reading would be wrong. I thought about it, but I think the timeline just doesn't hold up.
No.
Murky's got a point there. On Pickman's model, I don't know it. Is that a Stephen King short story, or is it a Lovecraft? Help me out, Murgu, I'm afraid. Can you spell that out a bit? Oh, see you, Slim. Slim's heading off. Night. I hope you enjoyed it. Take care, mate. Take care. Yeah, spell it out for us a bit, Murgu. I'm afraid that one's gone over our heads. You pointed out at the start as well. I just wanted to get. I had this in my notes, so I'm sorry. This is coming out of nowhere. You raised this right at the start of the stream, and I wanted to hop on it as well, but it's one of those ones where we had threads going everywhere. In terms of that slightly subversive message, they show from the very start that we get that little the idea of the civilization being inherently destructive, heavily zero-sum game. If one wins, one loses. Libertarians most affected. But so we see that right at the very start, where we have that recount of the war situation, the war victory, and then immediately the soldiers start chowing down on that very bloody meat.
Yeah.
So I thought they got that in right at the very start. It was so clear. Very well done.
Yeah, I did like it.
Oh, Murgut's come back to us. Right, H.P. Lovecraft. Right, I am going to. Okay, so I'm going to have to read that. I'm afraid, Murgut. I don't know Pickman's model. I I will have to have a read of that one. Yeah, so the film is very clear that it believes, I think that Western, let's just say we'll keep it focused on just like Western expansion, Western influence is cannibalistic, it is destructive, it brings itself up by pushing others down. I think it's fair to say the film believes it. It also doesn't present a particularly nuanced picture of other cultures, which I think you could say is kind of stereotypical.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm losing my threads a bit here, mate.
No, it's fine.
I'm trying to think where I was going to go with it.
Yeah, I mean, no, what you said about the characters is absolutely right, though. I mean, the characters do appear to be very one-dimensional, with the exception of perhaps Boyd. I keep nearly calling him Bird. Boyd.
Yeah.
He's the only one who really sort of has that sort of character arc when he goes from coward to hero. Everyone else just sort of sticks in their lane, and just fulfills their designated role in the story.
The only people I'd say who get a bit more development would be Slawson. He's a bit more of a nuanced character, as we've said. Obviously Ives, because of what he has to do. I'd say Martha a bit. There's a cute moment where after she learns her brother has died, Cleves comes and comforts her. And it's just a small moment, but I liked it. But just since you said you kept wanting to say birds, I just thought we'd talk about the chickens quickly. I don't know. Now, I was thinking they might be leghorns, but they look a bit too small. Like if we try and get a bit closer to these chickens, what I come down to is these are most likely standard hybrid Isa Brown chickens.
Why did most of them look like they haven't got any heads?
Oh, they're just blurring. They're facing away from you. That's all.
Okay. I'll say they're all called Mike by any chance.
Oh, no. Sorry. Diverting onto the sort of the last thing I wanted to get across here, just to get all the notes, and I see people are anticipating. By the way, this was part of the Jesus imagery as well here. I've got a little note that Ives says here to Boyd when he's trying to get him to join them. He says, "It takes courage to accept me." Quite yes. A Jesus statement. Quite a Jesus statement. What it was going to get over, I just want to cover for that. Sorry, let me start again, folks. End of a week. I get a little flustered. What I wanted to cover for that final element really was the argument put forward by the film in relation to Western culture of its destructive nature. And they throw in a second sort of Nietzscheism here after the one at the start, which Joe has handily got here. Morality, the last bastion of a coward. We're finding ourselves looking at master-slave morality again. Well, do you remember the last time we covered that? It came up in a film recently.
I'm
racking my brains.
Yeah, well, and we haven't covered the human centipede yet, so it wouldn't be that.
I'm going to get carrying on for that again. We'll have to. I've promised him.
Oh my God, yeah, Rope, surely. Was it Rope?
Yes, it was Rope.
Yeah, Dr. Prepper just said Rope in the chat. It was like, yes,
you,
of course it is, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's coming in again, the idea that morality is the bastion of the coward. What did you think Ives was getting at with that?
Do you know, again, it was just one of those bits where I sort of tuned out a little bit. I just sort of lost my... I was taking it more literal, you know, because this is very much in the recruitment stage of the film. And, you know, almost making it out like rejecting it's the easy thing to do, when actually that's just not the case.
Mm.
Again, sort of on the topic of addiction, it's easier just to accept the drugs, if you will, and to take them because then it makes you feel good, and it gets rid of the urge, albeit temporarily. And it's almost like he's inverted that to make it sound like, actually the brave thing to do is actually just to take the drugs, quitting. You don't want to quit drugs. Quitting's for quitters, and you're not a quitter
I
either.
go with that. I go with that. I think you're with that. He's trying to take away that barrier and say,
yeah, you could look at it from a religious sort of sense and almost sort of like, like the serpent, whispering in the ear and, twisting the meanings of the words to make it fit his agenda. You could certainly do that, but in that moment, because when I was watching this, I did have the theme of addiction going through my mind, and so I was looking out for things like that, and that for me was a big one. When I caught it, I think it was like the second or third time watching it, and he mentioned that, and I'm thinking like, you're that little devil on the shoulder that tells you to do the bad thing. It's good for you. Don't worry about it. It's good for you.
yeah, he's definitely inverted that. Definitely, especially as addiction is in there. I think there's no way the director wasn't thinking of, shall we say, some of the sort of inhalable or injectable delights you can easily acquire in Hollywood. I'd say it's also being applied quite directly to the idea of the Western expansion. The idea of you're saying you shouldn't do it because it's immoral, and he's saying like, really, you're leaning on that because you're afraid to do it. I think what Ives is getting at, or one reading of it, is to say, you're saying you shouldn't do it because really you're afraid to. You don't have the will to power. So they're trying to get that Nietzsche-like thing. And it's not unfair, because even brief familiarity with Nietzsche, and I don't know much about him. I hesitate to comment, but it's very easy to understand that the nature of morality will change dramatically when you change the scope of consideration. So, for instance, if it's really easy to just think of what's best for yourself.
Yeah.
And you can say, hey, look, I can do whatever I want for me. Why not? It's my life. It's my body, right? And then you start thinking, well, what if you got people who depend on you a bit?
I was going to say, one of the examples I could just think off the top of my head would be the old trolley problem.
Yeah.
If you've got one, let's say on one track you've got 5 random people, and then you've got one random person on the other track, you might elect to manipulate it or do nothing but to result in that one person dying. But then if that one person just so happens to be your mum, sorry, I don't care who those 5 randos are, saving me mum. Morality changes at that moment.
Yeah, exactly. That's a brilliant example. That's a brilliant example of it, how it breaks down, like your utilitarianism of, hey, well, but I've reduced the total number of deaths. I've got the optimal out. Oh, it's my mum. Not a chance, mate.
Exactly, yeah.
Not a chance. So utilitarianism breaks down when you have issues of loyalty. Maybe you can say, I'll give a controversial one here. We need to throw a bit of money at a thing, or this disadvantaged group will have a very bad time. Maybe some of them die. And you can say, okay, but what happens 20 or 30 years down the line? What are the implications of that? Maybe if we widen the time scale, we might have set a precedent. I don't want to take this into anything particularly... I I don't want to take. No, I'm not going to try and give any examples, but you can think of ones where you could say there's an immediate reaction where it's maybe got a small scale. You can help a very small number of people immediately, but then you can say later on, actually, there's a huge scale, and really, it would have been better to have a small amount of pain earlier than a big amount of pain later.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I probably could have done like disciplining children for that.
Yeah.
A little bit of harshness now, rather than having to do a major correction when someone goes off the rails. There we go. There's a less controversial example. I didn't want to get on any soapboxes. I was desperately trying not to.
There's a couple of people posting in the chat saying they're anticipating a gay reading, or that they're surprised you haven't bought one up yet. And it looks like, I think the Enrieb just needs a gay reading to complete his bingo card. So, what have you got for us?
What is gay about a couple of bros?
I knew you were going to go with that one.
Climax together.
Oh.
What's gay? I didn't see anything. Has anyone actually made the proper horror bingo card? Actually, folks, if you haven't, okay, I know almost no one watched this, but there is a proper horror show bingo card in my 2022 Christmas special.
Is there?
There is.
I completely forgot about that.
It's a brief cutaway in a Poe's cameo. She's playing proper horror show bingo.
Oh my god! Of course, yeah, I remember now. Yeah. Is that in the video that little VT?
Yeah.
Bit? Yeah. Oh, I remember that.
Because no one watches Christmas specials.
Right. We need to do. Right. You need to get a Google Doc, right?
Mm.
And link it in the description of future streams so that the chat can download it and fill out their bingo card as they go.
All right. I'm gonna make a note. Of this. I'm looking
Chat, would you be up for that?
All right. Maybe we can make a proper horror bingo randomizer. Oh, my pen's dying here. Right, that'll have to do. Yeah, so how can I say? The morality is touching on that will to power I think the film means it to be a bit of a slam dunk about Western civilization. Actually, no, morality should hold us back. Look at how nice indigenous cultures are, very simple, etc. I'm like, no, Nietzsche has a really, really good point. It's not saying you can do whatever you want, but it is saying that morality is very complicated. Very, very complicated. And literally, you can't just go utilitarian. There are bonds of loyalty. There are timescales and terms of, and sort of how what you bring into consideration will affect what the moral outcome is. So yes, I think we're once again just kind of chad-yesing with the film.
Yeah, I would. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Like General Source on. Absolutely, we love a bit of Nietzsche. WTF? I love Nietzsche now. All right. I will take a tiny scan through my notes, but I think that might be everything I have.
Oh, hang on. I have another gay part.
Oh no. Do you?
He's licking me!
Oh, and there were that was on a camp as well.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. All right, I wasn't going to share this one, but I did some history broken look at this in more detail. I'll just leave this for you guys to make your own decision about. But I did find it very interesting that Robert Carlyle, as Ives here, is made to look very Fagin-like, and it's Reich who ties him up and leads him around. You can draw your own inferences. What did they mean by this? And I also noticed something quite weird, that they do make sure there is a good old eagle quite prominently on the uniform here.
Oh, yeah.
If you can't catch it quite there, I do have a slight close-up of it here. Here we go, eagle detail, that's the one. You can just see it's got the old eagle on him, associated with many regimes. Not just this one, or not just the other one you may be thinking of. I just thought I'd bring it up there. What they meant by this, who knows?
Oh, it mind boggles, doesn't it? It just boggles.
Oh, hang on, I've just seen this thing from Amanda.
Yeah, I've seen that.
That's brilliant.
That is hilarious.
I love it. Oh, I love it. Well done, well done. I don't think we've said enough good stuff about the soundtrack for this. You know, absolute kudos to Blur members Michael Nyman and Damon Albarn on this. There are some unusual choices in here, but I found it a really captivating soundtrack. I really enjoyed it.
Did you just say Blur?
Yeah.
No way.
Sorry, I just assumed that. I'm old. Yeah, Damon Albarn is Blur. That's why I was going on about that random guy in the film Face. It's the guy from Blur.
No
or,
way.
Or Gorillaz, if you're a Zoomer.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus Christ! Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah. Sorry. Two of the guys from Blur did the soundtrack for this, so that's why.
Okay. That's why I had FIFA 98 in my head. Subliminally. Okay.
Yeah,
Woo-hoo!
sorry. Anyway. Yes. Woohoo! Straight over there. The old song too there. What a great song. What a beauty. All right. Well, I can see why people like this. The tone is a bit hard to get your head around. But I think we've shown there's a lot in here. And even if it attempted to be subversive, we've just kind of Chad Yes'd our way out of it.
Oh yeah, we can say well and truly that the message is well and truly been Barbied.
Oh yeah, we've totally Barbied it. This film has high energy, right?
Oh, definitely.
Well,
High energy.
Totally. It was it Neo Ken Federates. Ku Klux Ken. If you really want to go out there. I'm getting silly at this point. Shall we go on to scores and closing thoughts?
Let's.
Amanda. Yes, Ravenous is indeed
taste.
an acquired taste. Well said.
There you go. I liked the film. I didn't get the messaging that some of the more intelligent people in the chat did, because I just went in not expecting that. The closest I got to it was kind of Brokeback Cannibals. the closest I got to it was the addiction messaging, I think, which was something that I think was openly mentioned as being in the film. So I did get that. I think the balance of comedy / horror elements, I do feel like it was a bit unbalanced, if I'm completely honest. It doesn't ruin it for me, because I mean I can enjoy it, but for me it's difficult to explain. It's just I feel like if you're going to lean into the comedy side of it, then yeah, I don't really know what to say. I'm just sort of losing my train of thought here. But I mean, essentially, I liked the film, but I would say it was kind of middle of the road for me overall. I think the fact that there were multiple rewrites daily, almost, as you mentioned, kind of does show in the film. Some of the decision making is quite bad, albeit for comedic effect, but it still irked me. Like the fact I'm shouting at my screen, shoot him when he's spurging out, and then he drops the gun and runs off, and I'm just like, oh my god, okay. It just really hacked me off. In terms of scores though, I'd probably give it like a 7 out of 12 burgers. It was all right. It wasn't something that I would rave about. But in terms of the burger itself, lots and lots of... It's going to be a nice proper like burger with the old, dodgy meat in it. Plenty of ketchup and a slice of cheese pizza for Jeffrey Jones on the side, on the table at the other end of the restaurant.
He's in there ordering his Happy Meals.
Yeah.
Giving them away later.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Yeah, I can go with that. I can go with that. It's very. I mean, just a quick. Did any of the scares land for you? Was there anything like?
Not really, no, because again, it was more, because for me the comedic elements took it out of me. But I mean, I can appreciate high scores. It just, I mean, I watched it 3 times, and each time I was kind of like, okay, it was a film. It was all right.
Yeah, I think they tried to push for the scare like genuinely quite a lot. Mostly just when Reich is going into the cave.
Yeah.
And they give you that sort of genuine scare before they go into the sort of deliverance music chase. So they did give you a decent one.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
those guts were quite nasty.
Yeah, but for me, the most freaky bit was his death smile. That for me was like, oh my god,
yeah.
And his facial expression changed. But then again, what took it out for me is that wasn't consistent. His facial expression kept changing from scene to scene,
and the branches as well.
Yeah,
branches on his face shifted around a fair bit.
I mean, the branches I could allow for time lapses and stuff like that, but just in terms of like the face going from like that really creepy grin to like just the standard like mouth closed, eyes open, almost like a frown. It kind of took it away.
I'll get it up on screen again for you, just so we can all enjoy it again, because it's an absolute nightmare fuel.
Yeah, I'll never look at that. I'll never watch Desperate Housewives and see Dave Williams the same ever again.
No. All right, fair point. We're seeing a good balance here. Not Moriarty, big fan of this. He's gone back and forth. He seems to have settled on about a 10 out of 12.
Nice.
Dipped in ketchup, absolutely loads of ketchup in this one. Essie, I'm so glad. I was a bit worried, like, are we being too harsh to a film you really like? So, you'll be very familiar with this. I hope we've drawn out some interesting angles. Sorry,
yeah. Oh no, I was gonna say it's a good recommendation. It's a good recommendation, and I do enjoy the cast. Like when I was seeing, when I saw David Arquette pop up, I was like, "Oh my god!" And then him acting like Officer Doofy from Scary Movie was just
just a bonus.
It was a bonus, yeah. It was a highlight for me.
yeah, absolutely. So for me, I'd say I think I come down at about I think it's about an 8, and it's about an 8. It's come up for me because of the discussion. I've been finding just through this, I had to look closer. Like I was so chuffed when I spotted the turncoat thing, that he flips a coat inside out. It's just because of having to talk about this, I have to sort of process a story in a slightly different way. And then I noticed things I'd done, and I thought, oh, yeah, I've got to up your score a bit here. So it didn't give me the big scares that I really kind of hoped for. So part of the problem is I did go into this expecting it to be a bit scarier. So if you want to say that's not a valid criticism, I'm expecting it to be a different film, that's fair enough. But I like my horror a lot straighter than this. The sort of unusual quirky elements and the comedy elements make it a bit difficult. But there are some very well done ideas, good symbolism in here, and the attempted subversion easily routed and Chad Yest out the way into some, Anglo culture is pretty awesome. Good job. That grandfather clock would look great on the top of a mountain. Let's get it up there. I like that.
Just going to derail just to say it's my YouTube channel's birthday today.
No way.
Apparently so.
Oh, well, hey.
Well, hang on. It was 2006 it was set up, so that would be what, 17? There you go. It's my YouTube channel's 17th birthday today. There you go.
Oh, well done. Well, a fantastic day for everyone to go over and check the latest TCG upload.
Way.
Happy birthday, indeed. Good stuff. All right. Yeah. So I come down on a nice 8. An 8 is respectable. I'm going in. It's not my personal taste, but I think a lot was really well done. I would say it's a well-seasoned burger. Lots to talk about, so it's well-seasoned. A good amount of ketchup on it. So I can recommend this one. I'd just be selective to whom I recommended it, because for some people, this will be a 10.5 or 11. For some people, it's going to be a 4. So it's got to find its audience. So, and it seems like, Dr. Prepper with a 9. Yeah, it seems like people are mostly liking this. I might be actually a bit under most people. I'm seeing a lot of 10.5s, a lot of 9s. Yeah. Yeah, the chat actually likes it more than we do, which is a bit of an unusual one. You love to see it. Well, that is everything I had on Ravenous for this week. So I think that probably brings it to a close. 15 minutes early. Not bad going, eh? Not bad.
There you go.
Lovely. So at this point in the stream, you know what I'm going to do. We are going to do the horror homework announcement. Horror homework, as you know, for October, we are going into it. We're doing intense horrors. I'm going to actually be trying to scare you guys a little bit. We're going to cover something a fair bit more intense than we would usually cover. I have got a very good selection of guests coming up for this. I believe, and I will just confirm, I'm checking my messages just to make sure I got this right, because wrangling this was a bit difficult. Let me check. Oh gosh. Yep, confirmed. All right, folks, I will put out a community post with the whole October run of intense horror films, but I can tell you that the horror homework for next week is Audition from 1999, same year as this, Japanese film, director Takeishi Miike. And I'll put it in the chat in case you have problems finding it. Audition.
Oh, getting it's on Prime. Excellent.
Love it. So that is your director. You should be able to find it without too much trouble. We've got our good friend Poe joining us on for that one. And it'll be... You're going to hate it, by the way, DCG. You're going to hate it.
Oh, am I? Oh, great. Oh, well, I've got to sign up for a free trial to watch it.
I've chosen it a little bit for you. So...
Oh, God.
All right. And, hang on. Oh, I've just seen this coming. The Enriab, thank you so much, has gifted 5 memberships. Thank you so much. A whole bunch of you are in a good guy level. Oh, you love to see it.
Oh, Enriab, save your money. Spend it tomorrow over on... I'm joking.
Oh, brilliant.
No, nice
I'm
one.
not going to complain.
He's a gent, man, honestly. Well done. Nice
yeah,
one.
much appreciated. You are definitely my patron on this.
I'm going to have to start taking a
whole channel.
I'm going to have to start taking a cut soon, you know, for these appearances.
Never. All right. Well, there you go. So that is your horror homework. That is it's Audition 1999 by Takeshi Miike. You'll need the subtitles, but I think you guys will really enjoy it. I think everything we've discussed. Ravenous, we've given the horror homework, and I think we are done. So thank you, TCG.
Oh, thank you very much for having me, as always, and thank you very much, chat, as well. It's been a really good conversation tonight, I think.
Yeah, lively chat. You love to see it. And thank you very much to chat. I really enjoyed your responses and people with good insight, really good insight, catching really good stuff on this. So well done. All right, that is everything from me. So I will sign off. I will look forward to seeing you next week. And so, as usual, thanks, y'all. Cheers.